Hello and welcome to the Growing Green podcast. Your host, Jeremiah Jennings, is the owner of Growing Green Landscapes in Birmingham, Alabama, and has a passion for growing the entrepreneurship community for those who are young in business. Being a business owner isn't easy, especially in the early years, and that's why in this show we dive into a wide range of topics covering all the challenges small business owners deal with. Even if your company is generating $1 million or more, the stories from our great guest and Jeremiah's own firsthand experiences will propel your business forward. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Jennings.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode today here on the Growing Green podcast. This is your host, Jeremiah Jennings, and we're so excited to be coming to you today with another fresh new episode. This is going to be a fun one that we've kind of been talking a lot more life recently, just business updates, life updates, things like that. But we're going to talk a lot of business today. We have Paul Perry with us from Alfa Insurance. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing well.
You glad to be here?
I am. I'm
glad
excited.
To be here. I'm glad we finally got to do this thing.
Yes, we've been talking about doing it for a while.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
Timing's everything.
That's right. It's busy schedules for everybody. Everybody's crazy right now. But Paul is my insurance agent in life and business, and has been since the beginning, really, since I got my first car. My parents. Because how long have my parents been with you?
Oh, longer than I've been here.
Were they were at Alfa before you
Yes,
came?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yep.
So, yeah, but. So we've been with Paul ever since the beginning, and well, tell us a little bit about what you do, about insurance, what you sell, what you offer, things like that, because where we want to go today is we want to talk a lot of business insurance policies, benefits, pros and cons, things like that. There's probably not many cons, but a lot of pros, and so just tell us a little bit about Paul and Alfa.
Okay. I've been doing this going on 8 years now. I've always been in sales. I've been in service. Been in management. Most of my career was with a, big box retailer doing cell phones. So I've spent most of my time doing that, managing, multiple locations. But I always wanted to do something a little bit more than just peddling a product.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good products out there, but still, it's just, hey, this widget versus that widget, and we're better for whatever reasons. And later in my life, I had an opportunity through an open door with a group called ServPro, which most people are familiar with. They do a lot of advertising, making it, like it was before it happened. Yeah. They do a lot of
a job that I would never ever want to do.
Oh,
I would never sign up for that.
Yes, especially later in life, being a first responder is it's a challenging job. I really appreciate people, firemen, policemen, and going out there in the middle of the night when something bad's happened, a flood or fire. That's just what it takes, and I appreciate people like that. But it just wasn't for me. And once I started realizing this is not the job for me, I was looking around and trying to make a good career decision. And of course, the people that I called on, 8-9 hours a day was insurance agents.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to see for 2 years, what they did and what they were about. And I thought, no, this is what I'd like to do, because it's about helping people. Mm-hmm. We got to have certain levels of insurance and certain kinds of insurance. It's required. You go buy a car, you got to have insurance. You go buy a house, you got to have insurance. But it gave me an opportunity to be able to, help people meet the needs that they have. Sometimes they didn't know they had these needs, but it gave me that opportunity to be able to be much more in a service, provider, educating, training people, helping them meet their needs. When I was there, at 51 years old, it's kind of late in life to be just
making big career changes.
So I wanted to make sure I didn't have to, let me try this company. Let me try this company. No, at 51, I needed to make a wise decision, and I'm already kind of an anal retentive. So I did a lot of research, and one of the things that was very important to me is making sure that we had service after the sale, because price is wonderful. It's always good to have something inexpensive, but more times than not, you get what you pay for. So being able to have somebody that would be there after the sale was very important. And I kind of got down to 3 different companies, and the thing that I found out was that, paying claims is like delivering on the promise.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy any insurance, doesn't matter, car, home, doesn't matter. What you're buying is, if something happens, then I'm going to be made whole. I'm going to get taken care of. Well, there's a lot of companies out there that don't do that.
Yeah.
And I saw it firsthand, because not only did I handle the front side of signing people up for their jobs, I was also the one that was managing the jobs on the back end, making sure that the customers were getting taken care of. So I knew the companies that were either wouldn't pay or slow pay or hassled you because you paid. So that was my number one thing, is making sure that I went with the company that would stand behind what they said, not just have a cheap price up front.
Yeah. Did you have did you work with Alfa much during that?
Oh, yes. I was handling, I actually communicated with the customer, the work crew, and the insurance company. I kind of coordinated all that.
Okay. We'll circle back to Alfa here at the end of the show today and talk a little bit more about them and their story. And because y'all are regional?
Yes.
You're regional, right? So
yeah, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, so there's probably somebody out there listening to this who could benefit from Alfa. But we'll circle back to that. So cool story there, career change, got into it. And I like your slogan that you say all the time. It's so Paul's in one of our networking groups here, and it's insurance made simple. And I think that's what we should do here today on the podcast, is kind of simplify insurance, because there's a lot of guys that listen in that are young in business. They're starting out in the first 2 to 3 years. Probably, I know for a fact there's guys out there who don't even have insurance yet. They're just mowing and they don't even have insurance. So walk us through the process and take it wherever you want to take it, of startup time, like when do you get insurance? How do you go about getting insurance? What do we need? And we can kind of dive into a plethora of topics as we go, but just go from the beginning and say where do we even need to get started.
I guess the first thing I was going to say is that insurance is just a fancy way of saying it's a shared responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have insurance, you're saying if something happens, it's all on me.
Yeah, you're totally reliable.
I mean, so you buy a $30,000 car and you don't have insurance on it, because you don't owe anything on it, but you wreck it. Hey, you're out $30,000. You got to go buy another one.
Yeah.
So that's the whole mentality. Now, granted, there's states that require, you got to have X amount of liability, because that always what protects the other person, but it doesn't protect.
What is Alabama's?
Alabama's is $25,000 for autos.
Yeah.
You got to have a minimum of $25,000. And just so that liability is always what protects the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an accident, it's your fault, somebody else gets hurt. Liability is what makes the other person whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that in the case of an automobile, they've had an injury, so that $25,000 goes toward that injury. Now that's obviously
that's not going to get you to the emergency room.
Yes,
right there.
yes, barely get you through there.
Yeah.
But it would also technically cover, pain and suffering, lost wages. So, if that person gets hurt, let's put it in this perspective. You got a company truck, you're driving down the road, you rear end somebody, and now they can't work for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do you have to, are you responsible for paying for their medical bills, but now they can't work for 6 weeks. That's lost wages. And then, God forbid, you have to get into the pain and suffering, and
if you just have the state minimums, then obviously the $25,000 isn't going to cover.
Correct.
I mean, if they're actually hurt, it's not going to even cover their medical bills, much less pain and suffering, any of that.
Correct.
What is so you have the legal limit there, like the the minimum amount. Yeah. What is the process of if they have more than that? Do they just would they just go about suing you? Is that how they do it? Okay.
That's what happens.
That would be the next step.
And that's the thing you see on TV all the time, all these daytime, lawyer commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, the insurance companies are, they won't pay. Well, there might be some that don't pay. I mean, that's a legitimate factor.
Yeah.
You've got the coverage, but they won't pay. But hey, when they pay, that's all they got.
Yeah.
Then it's back on you.
Yeah.
Or back on the business if it was, a business insurance.
So state minimums. You want to make sure you have your state minimums. Check with your local, wherever you live. And
that's right.
Make sure you at least have your state minimums. But I didn't mean to side
no.
take you off there.
That's good.
I don't even know where you're going with that. I don't even know where you were going.
Well, and of course, the two major things are going to be auto and property.
Yeah.
Whether it's personal or business, and this is obviously a business-focused, podcast, so we're going to focus on the business. But, again, the liability is the biggest single thing in a business to make sure.
Yeah.
Yes, in your business, if you've got a trailer, you got a mower, you've got your stuff on there, what happens if somebody steals it? What happens if somebody hits the back of your car, or you back into something and it goes down the hill and you have nothing? So again, that's covering the property. But the first step, to me, step one is liability.
Yeah, let's go liability. Let's get into that, because I think that's the most important when it comes to business, in my opinion.
Because, basically, doesn't even have to have a sign on the side of the truck, but you put a sign on the side of the truck.
They're coming for you if something happens. Yeah.
Well, number one, I guess the assumption is, well, this guy's doing business the right way. This lady's doing business the right way, so she's got insurance. In a business, the liability is not the expensive part of the business.
No, not for what you get.
No, because, we had a customer just today. He had $250,000 on his work truck. That's actually a pretty good number.
Yeah, you could.
It's not, again, based on what we've seen in the past. I've seen much, much bigger claims than that.
Yeah.
But that's still a good number. But to go from $250,000 to $1 million of liability on his work truck was going to cost him $7 more a month.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh.
It's
how
a
do you
no-brainer.
not do that?
Yeah.
Well, do I need $1 million? Well, hopefully not, but
I can attest to the $1 million thing of, if you do commercial work, you're most likely going to have $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Every commercial person that I work for, any property management company, it's what they require.
Yes.
And you know that from the ones that you file for me, they all require at least $1 million.
Well, and this was the reason why we were having to quote him to go from 250 to $1 million, was because the business he was trying to do work for, that was their minimum requirements.
$1 million,
so he ponied up, did what he needed to do.
Paid that $7 a month.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because, it's going to prevent them from being able to either continue working on it or bid, for a commercial job.
I know how much it's worth, because, you remember the door that I broke, a year ago, 2 years? No, it was 2 years ago now. That's crazy. No, it was last year. It was last year. But it was I don't even know what I pay in yearly for liability. I mean, what is it roughly?
Well,
$1,000 a year?
Not even that, really.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that. And that was a $10,000 door that I broke.
Mm-hmm.
That massive glass door. It was all totally covered.
Yeah, because if you don't have it, which, again, landscaping is one of those things that, hey, everybody in the world can do it. You got firemen that they just do this.
Yeah.
I have a lot of firemen that do it on the side.
Yep.
So most people just don't think about it. Hey, I'm just cutting grass. And a lot of times it just kind of grows. You do 1 or 2 yards in the neighborhood, you're helping out, and you go, hey, that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'm making some money. So now you pick up, some yards at another neighborhood. You buy you a truck, you get you a trailer. I've heard on some of your podcasts how guys have gotten started, and that's a lot of times how they've gotten started.
Yeah.
They go by their first ride behind, or their first zero turn, and before you know it, you got a business.
Yeah.
But it's also about, protecting that business and making sure that if that happens, the thing of it is, in this business, it's all based, or insurance, business insurance is based on risk. So cutting grass, what are your major risks? Busting out windows, busting out doors. I guess I've never heard of it happening, but you could run over somebody's gas line.
Oh, I've done that.
Yep.
I've done that.
And burned down a house.
Yeah, I haven't burned a house down, but we ran over a gas line.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all those things could happen, but relatively speaking, insurance for a landscaper is not very, very expensive. Yeah. Now, you get a little bit more into, trimming trees and doing hardscapes, you're building retaining walls, things like that, then that risk level goes up a little bit. But it's nothing compared to roofing, for instance. Yeah. I did a roofer when he first started his business. And he, because the other factor is risk and your sales.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the more you produce, the more you make, the more exposure you have.
Yeah.
In this case, he told me, "Hey, I'm gonna do $100,000 my first year," and he did. Plus.
Yeah.
Plus.
Are you talking about Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mike's going to be on the show here pretty soon.
Yep.
We had that conversation the other day about what he was spending on insurance, and I was like, oh, my goodness.
And that's the thing. That first year, it was like $3,000.
Yeah.
He was a roofer.
But I bet he wishes it was that now.
Yep. And it went from, the second year,
Yeah.
it went from $3,000 to $25,000.
Yeah.
And even that's,
we're not even. Let's just say his business is doing very well.
Very well, and he's spending about multiples of 25,000 now.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's people on the roof and what happens, up there, and so the more he does, the more exposed he is to that. So as a landscaper, you're making $30,000-$40,000 a year. You're not going to pay nothing for insurance. But now you're making $1 million a year, and I don't even know how big, landscapers get. But listen, you go from that and you scale it up, you're going to scale that insurance up too.
Yeah. And it's just so important to me that you get it, because like I've seen it pay off firsthand, like I said last year, and something breaking a window. So liability is, I think we both agree, first thing you should do. What are steps how do you find a good insurance agent? Let's talk about that for a minute. How do you find somebody that's not going to scam you?
Yeah, there's not as many people do commercial as they do, personal. So, you want to kind of find. To me, first thing I would do is ask your personal insurance agent, because if you've got a relationship with them, that's what I strive for, is to build a relationship with my customers.
Yeah.
To where, okay, I got like what happened with you. I had your personal car, then we did the business because you trusted me.
Yeah.
So I would go to people that you trust first, and okay, maybe yours doesn't do it. So then ask for referrals. Just like you're doing through this podcast, who do you use? Now, again, price really isn't the area you want to, put too much focus on.
Yeah.
Yes, it can run the gamut, but you always get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I'm 59 years old, and I still sometimes have to learn that, because you go, oh, I'll just get the cheaper one.
Yeah.
And it always bites me in the behind.
Yeah.
It always does. I've never lucked out and bought the cheap whatever, and it worked out like I wanted to.
Yeah, not as good as it could be.
Yes. And you don't have to buy the most expensive either, because that's rarely the right value.
Worth the money.
That's right. But somewhere in between those extremes, you can find it. But you should look for somebody that will be there. I know this sounds like I'm bashing online. They've got a purpose, but you're not an insurance expert.
Yeah,
I'm not a landscaping expert.
Yeah.
So I go to the expert when I need help. So you find somebody that you can deal with, and I'm very connected with my customers, and I'm trying to grow my staff to be, better at what they do, so that there's only so much of me to go around.
Yeah.
But make sure that you've got somebody that will be there, that'll have a phone number that you can call, and then has a staff that can support them, because you don't want to go to a one-man shop, and now you need something and he's off on vacation.
Yep.
So you need somebody that's got a staff. You need to look at the company, and honestly, the thing to do is to make sure, like me, what I already told you my story about claims. It's only as good as the claims are. That's the way it is. If you pay, I don't care how much you pay. If they don't pay off, I had a customer the other day that had a $800,000 home, and they needed their roof replaced. They were denied. It was they had damage. They had a roofing company that said it was wind and hail damage, and they refused to pay. it was. I don't even know how much an $800,000 home roof costs, but
Yeah.
it's more than what
More than a few bucks.
more than a few bucks
Yeah.
that they had to come out of pocket on.
Because their insurance company denied.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. So you want to look at reputation. I've got a couple of articles that I have found online that are the 10 worst insurance companies, and it not only gives the names. It's not just a Tonight Show list of the 10 worst insurance companies. It tells you why, and it's all based on claims.
Yeah.
These are by trial attorneys who know what they're talking about because they know they're the ones they have to go fight for. So you want to ask, and you want to ask other people. Ask other landscapers. Who do you have? Have you had any claims? How do they pay? I mean, to me, that is the single most important thing that you want to find out, because you don't want to spend $100 or $1,000 and then you need them and they go, well, sorry, that's not covered.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened. Then I actually had a incident with that, and I was in Tuscaloosa. I was down there one time, and I was in my parking spot. Somebody backed into me, and it was the big company that starts with an N, Nationwide. I don't care. I'll say it. And that was their insurance. They backed into me, and they would not cover it. Yep. So my car's had a massive dent in it.
Well, and
it wasn't worth it for me to file it on mine. But.
And that's the thing that on this report, and you can Google it. It's just look up 10 worst insurance companies out there. Is the modus operandi now is deny it, make the file it with your insurance company. They'll subrogate it. They'll go after them for you. Because they know, just like what happened to you. No, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So they win.
So they
win.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's not a good business model, but it's a profitable business model.
It's a very profitable business model.
Yeah. It's not, but that's not who I want though. Like that's not who I want in my corner.
And that doesn't mean the agents that work for these companies are bad.
Yeah, for sure. No, I know good agents that work for those companies.
That's right. That's right. But that's how you find out, is do some research. My gosh, you got Google everything.
Yeah.
So you can look. Now, that doesn't mean that every single person with Alfa is satisfied. I mean, even we say we have a 94% claim satisfaction rate.
Yeah.
Well, that means the way I look at things, that means 6% of the people weren't happy.
Yeah.
But 94 is a good number.
That's a pretty good number, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You're never going to make everybody happy.
No, you never will.
Never will. So, liability, definitely I say it's your first thing. Like you said, go to your agent first, your personal agent, your parents' agent if you're young, starting out. See if they do commercial, and then go from there. This isn't advice, but I have $1 million. I think you would recommend that's probably a minimum, wouldn't you say, somewhere? I mean,
and it
because
costs so little.
The difference, yeah.
And it costs so little less to go less than that. You really aren't saving, and it's become the standard in commercial.
If you want to get into commercial work, you're most likely going to have $1 million policy. Just to even put in a bid. They're going to make you have that. So liability is very, very important. That's the first thing I wanted to cover. Move to auto a little bit in here. And so, because a lot of guys out there, I mean, like I got a box truck on the road now. That's a big rig driving down the street. A lot of guys are pulling 20-foot trailers plus a 15-foot truck. That's 40 feet almost riding down the road. There's a lot of liability there. So liability as a business is its own thing. It's an umbrella policy. But then you get into autos, and then when guys have multiple rigs out on the road, auto policies can really continue to grow and grow. But how important are the autos? We talked about state minimums.
Yeah. But
what is your advice on getting on like coverages for autos and things like that?
Well, you're actually more exposed on the road. I mean, obviously you're driving, you've got speed, there's just 1,001 things. And, short of burning down somebody's home, what could happen in a vehicle is a whole lot worse than what could happen around the house.
For sure.
So, you want to make sure that you've got, number one is your liability. Now, the way it always says is like for state minimums. This is
liability in your auto, not our umbrella business policy.
Correct.
We're talking about liability on the auto.
So $25,000, and then it's always $25.50. It's always two numbers. And what that means is, that $25,000 is per person, up to $50,000, which is basically be two people. The easiest, simplest thing is to get what's called CSL, combined single limits. That way you've got one number, and in a business, again, the same way, you need to have $1 million because you want to make sure that if something happened, you're in that box truck you might hit 2 or 3 cars.
Yeah.
Well,
if it's going to take a lot to stop it, I mean.
And luckily here, we don't have many weather issues like what we see out west, with, these 60-car pileups and people get killed. But those things can happen, maybe not because of snow, but for other reasons. So the third number is your property number. So you've got $25,000 per person for liability, $50,000, per accident. But now you got to pay for that person's vehicle. Well, again, state minimums is $25,000, but today
you're not going to get
you can go buy a $70,000, $80,000 gas or diesel truck.
Mm-hmm.
The new F-150 Lightning's $115,000.
Yeah.
So you need to have at least $100,000 of property coverage, because it's not just the vehicle. It might be, the light pole you ran through or the person's house that you backed into, any of those things. So you want to make sure that you have at least $100,000 for property damage.
What would cover? So let's say you hit a pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those numbers would that be?
That would be the liability, because they got injured. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So liability and property is what your biggest, you would say. You said straight across, right? You said keep them all the same.
If you can keep, you really need
That's
to be
the best
$1 million.
thing to do.
Especially if you've got more than one vehicle out there.
Yeah.
Then you get into comprehensive and collision.
Mm-hmm.
This is now protecting your stuff.
Yeah.
So, comprehensive is things that happen to the vehicle that aren't really anybody's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Hail damage, somebody steals it, you hit a deer. I mean, tree limb falls on it, so.
An act of God.
An act of God, basically. Yeah. It's, again, it's nobody's fault. There's no at risk. I would keep that number relatively low.
Yeah.
Because
you're not really going to, nice to have when it happens, but.
And I guess that's the important thing to talk about is the purpose of deductibles.
Yeah.
Deductibles gives you some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want all the skin in the game. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah.
But you want to keep a little bit to manage costs. So the bigger the deductible, the more skin in the game you have. But one thing I've seen with most companies is that there's a point of diminishing returns. $100 deductible, $500 deductible, or $1,000 deductible. Once you get much beyond $500, you're not saving that much money.
Okay.
So you want to try and find, okay, how much am I willing to put out of pocket? And most people wind up going around $500. That's probably, in my opinion, the most common.
Mm. Okay.
So, tree limb falls on your truck, and now you've got a $5,000 bill to get your truck fixed, so you pay $500 and the insurance company pays the rest.
That is good stuff. You can, this is really good. I don't know. I'm learning a lot here, and I think everybody else is too. Not comprehensive. You got me on auto stuff. Liability. We've talked about auto now. Let's get into property. Property is one that is also important because a lot of guys out there listening have $10,000, $15,000 lawnmowers now.
Yep.
And so how do you go about that? I mean,
there's
trailers, things like that. Trailers are costing, if you get a dump trailer, it's $8,000 or $10,000 now.
Yeah.
So what is the process for that?
Your trailer would be a part of your auto policy.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't know that.
So and there's a few exceptions, some weird thing that maybe somebody won't cover. But normally a trailer, because it's attached to the vehicle. Now, the nice thing about it, let's say you get a trailer, it's just a trailer. I picked it up for $500. I'm not going to insure this thing.
Yeah.
Your trailer is an extension of the truck at that point. So your liability extends to that. You're driving your truck, you jackknife, your trailer hits somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to have its own coverage.
Yeah,
it's an extension of the vehicle. In fact, you let me borrow your trailer, I hook it up to my truck. Well, now, I don't have any insurance on it, but my liability extends to that.
I did not know that.
Yep. the next step is, okay, now I've got a $15,000 trailer, or I got a box, nice and enclosed trailer. I want to insure it. So you want to insure it just like you do your vehicle.
So how would it be? So if you don't insure it itself as property, if it got stolen, what would happen?
Just you're out.
You're out. So if you're spending $5 or $10,000 on a trailer, it might be worth adding it as its own policy. Okay.
Correct.
So equipment. Let's get into that. I mean, trailers, but mowers is really, that's what I'm sitting there thinking. Bobcats. I mean, things like that, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 grand sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, most people aren't going to let you even borrow the money to be able to do it without getting insurance on it. So just like a car and a home, they're going to require you to have it either through them or through your insurance carrier. Well, just like most things, the convenience is, okay, if I buy it, I'll insure it with them. Okay, cool. That's no problem. They won't let you keep insurance after you pay it off. So you're going to go to to your agent eventually anyway.
Yeah.
But the big thing about the stuff that you have on your trailer is it has to be insured differently than the stuff you have in your house if you have your own office or shop. Because anything that you keep in your shop, your furniture, your tools, your computers, that's just business personal property. It stays there. So, let's say you're renting a building. You don't insure the building because you're just renting it. That's his responsibility. Mm-hmm. But everything that's in the building is yours. So you want to insure that. And that just becomes, part of a business property policy. Mm-hmm. But when you're moving your equipment from place to place, it has to be insured on what's called an inland marine policy. It's a weird term. It goes back a long time, back when Conestoga wagons, it was, you think of when you insure what's in the boat, that's a marine policy.
Yeah.
Well, if you're putting stuff on a rail car or on a Conestoga wagon, that's inland marine. So that's how they came up with the name. But it's the same thing. You're insuring equipment that's never in the same place. Maybe in your
going
case,
all over the
once
place.
A month, it's in the same place, but it's never really in the same place twice.
Yeah.
So there's more exposure. So you have to be able to insure it that way. It's not that big of a deal. It's normally based on the amount of equipment that you have. Mm-hmm. You can get blanket policies which say, okay, I got 100,000 and it's going to be this. You can do, it's normally a little better to do it through a specific coverage policy. I got 50,000 on my tractor, my mower, and then I've got X amount in weed eaters, and I got X amount in blowers and whatever else you got.
So you're saying the blanket could cover all of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But you're saying it would be better to do, in your opinion, or what? I mean,
it depends on the situation and what you've got.
Yeah.
If you've got a lot of small tools, I've done them with plumbers. They didn't have any one tool that was expensive.
Correct. Yeah.
So a blanket policy does much better for that.
Makes more sense. Yeah.
What does a weed eater cost you?
$400.
Okay. So most of the time you're going to have at least a $500 deductible.
You're going to look at blankets for that
right.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, what you would do there is probably just insure the products that you really want to, because that's the other thing we haven't talked about, and help me to remember. Let's talk about the effect of claims.
On rates?
On rates.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to have a claim for every little piece that somebody, whether it's external theft or internal theft or whatever, somebody steals your weed eater, because now your rates go sky high.
Yeah.
So, most of the time people have $500 to $1,000. Well, spending $1,000 on that $70,000 mower, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But that means there's a lot of equipment on the back that's not covered.
Yeah.
So that's why you kind of got to determine, again, what are you willing to shoulder as responsibility? The blanket would only really help on y'all's situation if somebody unhooked your trailer and drove off with it.
Yeah.
My recommendation would probably, in most situations, is just cover the things that are the most critical.
Most important.
I mean,
No, I agree because $500 deductible, that's going to get you 80% of a new blower. It's going to cover a brand new. It's going to cover a full weed eater. So it's not really small engine stuff like that. It's not really worth it. But when you get into $15,000 mowers, then it's different. So, so that's good. Property stuff. Well, you got something?
No,
Okay.
I was just going to say, the more specific you get, the more you cover, the more hassle it is. Because you got to list the mower, the brand, the model, the serial number,
all that
and
stuff.
And you got to do that. Yeah. So again, it just depends. If you've got 20 weed eaters, and you're not worried about one getting stolen, but maybe 10 of them getting stolen at one time, then you may want to look at a blanket.
That makes sense. I think people with shops would probably look into that because, if you got all your stuff sitting in a shop overnight and somebody comes through there and just raids everything, then you're in trouble.
Correct.
But so one more point on this, then we'll move on. I know it can be confusing, but we're trying to make it simple, right?
That's right.
So we got blanket policies for that. You said everything inside the shop is different, though.
Correct.
So if those weed eaters are moving around every day, but they're in your shop that night when everything gets raided, they're not covered in that shop policy.
Correct. They're covered on the inland marine.
They're on the inland marine.
Yep.
So, okay.
But like right now, we're sitting in my office, and I've got 2 desks, I got 2 monitors, I got a computer, I got chairs.
Yeah.
No, I'm not really worried anybody's going to come in and steal this stuff. But what if I had a fire?
Yeah.
All this stuff. And that kind of brings up a good point. You need to do this with your inland marine. You need to do this with your, business property. Take pictures. Because if something ever happens, and really you need to do this at your house too, but take pictures of what you own.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean like you're selling it on eBay where you take it, put it on your desk and take a picture of it. No, just take 4 or 5 pictures in your office or in your shop to where if you did have a major claim, number one, you're frustrated, you're angry, you're not going to remember everything.
Yeah.
But if you got a picture, you just lay them out and you just start writing it down.
Yeah.
Because you want to capture everything.
I can tell you firsthand when I wish we had pictures. We had some friends who their apartment burnt down. And if they would have had pictures, we wouldn't have to go through all the smoky, nasty things, each one by one, and pick out what they were and write them down.
Yep.
We could just look at that picture and be like, oh, this was in here, this is in here, and just throw the rest away.
That's right.
We could get SurfPro to come back in and not have to do that. But because they didn't have the pictures or the proof,
that's right,
we had to go through literally everything they had in there, down to their makeup bag of all the stuff, and write down what was in there for the insurance company to come back through and reimburse them.
You think about it, the pictures on the wall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you set that amount, everybody, I understand you have a business to run, you're trying to keep overhead down as much as possible, but if you think, I got 10,000, spend a little bit of time to think about what you really have, because if something did happen, nobody's going to come in and steal your pictures off the wall. But
you got thousands of dollars worth of pictures in here right now.
Yeah.
Literally hundreds of, probably in the thousands of just in this one room.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I agree. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. It's just one of those things is, it's better to have more than enough than not enough, because something's not going to get taken care of.
Yeah.
And normally, to go from 25 to 30,000 isn't going to make that much of a difference. Yeah, to go from 25 to 125, there may be a big price difference. Yeah. But you just want to make it right.
Insurance is one of those things. I know people think like insurance agents are scammers, or a lot of the time, or they just want you to spend money. And this, I don't think you're that way at all. Obviously, I don't think that, or you wouldn't be on here. We wouldn't be doing this. But I don't know. I think it's a necessary evil is what it would be called. You don't need it until you need it.
Till you need it.
We have another friend, Jamie Fee, up in from Supremescapes. His whole shop burned down.
Yep.
Burned to the ground. Everything in it they had.
Yep.
Did he ever think his shop was going to burn down? No. But he did. Yep. And he better be glad he had insurance then. So, I
know this is going to sound hokey, and I'm sorry, but that's just who I am. I pray for my customers that they don't have claims, not because I don't want claims on my policies, but because I don't want them to have to go through it.
Yeah.
But in reality, life happens. We all know that.
It's going to happen.
Whether it's fender benders, whether it's something, terrible, I would wish upon all wishes that my customers would go their entire life and have spent tons of money on insurance and nothing happened.
Yeah.
because one claim changes it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had one claim personally, and it was over $31,000 because my washing machine overflowed and messed up about maybe less than 100 square feet of hardwood flooring. But all of my downstairs was hardwood, so they couldn't fix the spot. They had to replace it all. We had to go to a hotel and stay for a month while they moved my furniture out, tore up the floor, put the new floor back in, stained it, did it all, moved everything back in. So, I had one claim in all of my life. I'm 59 years old.
Yeah.
So whatever that comes out from 16 on,
yeah.
That I guarantee you I haven't paid $30,000 worth of premiums on my house.
Yeah.
So,
but you paid for it
that's
there in
right.
one incident.
One incident.
No, I agree. It's a necessary evil. We don't want to do it, but you want it when it happens. Things like that. So I'm a big fan of it. I think liability you shouldn't be operating without it, in my opinion. I think the state and the local governments would tell you that too. You should not be running business without it. So while we're on claims, real quick before we wrap this thing up, we're on claims. Tell us about what you wanted to mention there about claims and making rates go up.
Well, again, we talked about how paying claims is the most critical thing of buying insurance. But the effective claims, at best, is like with us, we give you a no claims discount. So what happens when you have a claim? Oh, you went up on me. No, you lost the no claims discount.
Yeah.
I know it's the same thing. It's semantics. I get it. But still, you get that discount up front, and, of course, then you lose it. But an insurance company can't continue to take losses, even if they're small losses, because they're in the business to make money.
Yeah.
And, there's some of the wealthiest companies out there are insurance companies. A lot of it's because 3/4 of all their money is held in reserve in case they have to.
I was going to say, aren't insurance companies insured? Isn't that a thing?
One, they're internally insured through their reserves.
Yeah.
And then they have reinsurance for things that they're not able or willing to cover.
Okay.
But they have to keep reserves by the state that they're it's called domiciled, fancy term, that they're set up in, to have X amount of reserves. Most companies have billions of dollars of reserves.
Really?
Because what happens if something really bad happens, like a tornado? They're out tons of money.
Yeah, all at one time.
At one time. So, they have to manage that. And, it's funny because, insurance companies will say that they know exactly how many people will die or how many people will have a claim every single year. And they're pretty good at hitting that number. They just don't know who's going to happen to.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So they have to have those reserves, and they have to make sure that they're making wise decisions. They take on a customer because they're a good risk, not just in the job, but they're a good risk personally.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't pay your bills and you're always late pay, and you're not going to get as good a rate as the person who pays their bills on time and has good credit rating. They're going to get a better rate than the person who doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, if you start having a lot of claims, they're going to go up because now, that's just what's going to happen. And they may say, no, too many, and they're going to cut you off.
Wow.
They're going to cut you off. And now you got to go out and go get insurance somewhere else. But now you're kind of a,
risk.
Yeah, you're a risk for other,
risk.
you're a bad risk for other people too,
Yeah.
because wow. Now that doesn't mean that somebody just has a couple bad things happen. Typically, weather-related claims don't go against you.
Okay.
Because it's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's acts of God.
Yeah.
But things that are, hey, I backed into this. Hey, I ran over
broke
that.
a door.
Those are the things,
Yeah.
That you need to make sure that you manage. Manage up front by being safe.
Yeah.
But also manage, okay, I busted this person's door. I got $1,000 deductible, and it's going to be $1,500.
Yeah.
Do I really want to go down that path? Yeah. That's your decision. We're going to pay, but just think about it. Now, $1,000 deductible and a $10,000 door, that one's easy.
Yep.
I mean, that's easy. But that's the thing is just, you're going to have to manage it just like you manage other parts of your business, because the insurance company is going to manage it because it's part of their business as well.
That's good stuff. The last thing I want to talk about is insurance-wise is workman's comp.
Okay.
That's something that I think is very important. Definitely you need to check with your state and local governments, because like Alabama doesn't require it.
Well, it does
if you're under
5 employees.
Yeah, under 5 employees. Yeah. So, like for me, I don't have to have it if I don't want to have it. But I think it's something good that you should have. So, talk about workman's comp a little bit. How, because like I know not every insurance company offers that. Like y'all work with somebody who does, right?
Correct. We've got an agency that I can shop it with. So Alfa doesn't underwrite that, but we've got other companies that do. And the thing what you're doing there is now, as a business owner, you've got a degree of responsibility to the employees that you have. Mm-hmm. You are their, income. Yeah. So if they get hurt or they get sick because of something done on the job, you're in Alabama, you're not held responsible for it, but there is really kind of a higher responsibility. Yeah. And then you also, when you start getting into bigger commercial jobs, they won't have it.
They require it.
So there's 2 ways you can go about doing it, which is obviously the complete way, which is you'll list the number of employees that you have and what they do. Again, it's managed the same way. It's the risk of what those employees are doing, and you pay a rate. Landscapers really are not that high of a rate. Again,
it's not that bad.
We're going to pick up on the roofers again. Yeah. You can imagine their workers' comp is through the roof.
What does it cost for like mine is like $95 a month.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all.
No, it's not. But you're looking at, again, tens of thousands of dollars, a month if you've got a big roofing company. Yeah. And contractors are some of the worst, because you've got electricians and plumbers and framers and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And good and well they don't, it's a challenge to manage, the safety on a job site when you've got all these different people running around. Yeah. So, the same thing, your limits, you've got 250,000, 500,000, and $1 million typically. And when I look, there's just like no difference, hardly at all, between $250,000 and $1 million.
For what the difference is.
Yeah.
Like for the extra $750,000 that it covers. Yeah.
Yep. Again, a lot of places you can't bid. Now, the weird thing, and I don't really, I wish I could say I completely understood this, but it's called a ghost policy. It's really just a piece of paper that gives you the ability to say, I have workers' comp, but nobody's covered. Yeah. So I can bid on this job. It's kind of weird. A lot of different states have, minimums. Like I think in Alabama, it's like $750. It's what you would pay for an annual premium for a ghost policy.
Okay, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it is, and but it's like I said, it's.
But that's what you could use that if you were like a solo guy.
That's right.
That would be when that would really would be like the legit way to use that.
Correct.
Thing and not cheat the system.
And owners and partners can exempt themselves, from it, because hey, you've got your own, insurance, your own health insurance. Yeah. So. Again, it's just one of those things. It's another risk. It's another responsibility. Of course, the nice thing about all of these things in a business, these are all tax deductible. Yep. It's a business expense. Yep. And I know that, you got to make the money before you can have a tax deduction. Yeah. But
you're not totally losing by having it.
That's right. At least you're getting the credit, for that.
I know you're not a health insurance agent, but you said like the owner has his own personal policy. If they go out and cut their fingers off like I did, if you don't have workman's comp, like if you tell your health insurance company that it was a work-related injury, would they still cover it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, they're going to want, like anybody else, they're going to want to see, can we get it covered under workers' comp? Do you have that?
If it was me, I didn't have workers' comp, they would just cover it. Okay.
Insurance companies are real good of always trying to find basically somebody else.
Somebody else to pay
it. Yeah. Which is good because like I had a customer the other day that they had a house, they had a water leak under the slab. So
this even happened.
Yeah. And, again, not every insurance company covers that. Alfa does. But the first thing that they do is, okay, we're going to take care of it, but we're going to subrogate it. We're going to go after the builder and see if it was their responsibility. Was it something that just happened, or did they not build it correctly?
Yeah.
So again, and if they do get money for that, then they refund your deductible because now they didn't have to come out of pocket. Yeah. They were able to find somebody else. So a lot of times, if there's something like, let's say a part breaks on your zero turn and it goes crashing into the wall, they're going to more likely than not take care of it, but then they're going to go after the manufacturer of the zero turn to go, why did it break? If that's something that was their responsibility and it caused this, they're going to go after them.
Yeah, they're going to not pay it if they don't have to pay it.
That's right.
Yeah. So, man, we are sitting at 15 minutes. It does not feel like we've been talking for an hour, but I think we got a lot of good stuff covered. I've learned a lot. I think everybody listening has learned a lot. You have anything else you want to, any words of advice or anything anything that we hadn't discussed that you want to hit on?
No, I think we've got it all. I think I just want to reiterate the fact that, find somebody that will work with you, that will build relationship with you, because, if you can't, then you might as well go buy it online. Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason to deal with somebody local. But that somebody who's local, I think, always trumps, online, because you should be able to pick up the phone and call them. Yeah. I got customers that will, and I may be different, but they call me on Saturday, they call me on Sunday, and I'm one of those people that's like, if I'm just sitting there watching TV. Yeah. It might be a text, it might be a call. I'll talk with you. Mm-hmm. If I'm busy, then I'm just not going to answer the phone. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
If I'm doing something, that's I'm not going to be interrupted, I'm just not going to be interrupted. But that's what voicemail's for. I'll call you back. Yeah. And to me, that's valuable.
Oh, it is, 100%.
Because, you don't want to call somebody on a Friday at 4:30. They've already gone because they're, they took off, which is fine. But then you got something that's really important. Yeah. And they don't, call back till Monday morning. Yeah. So
just the fact of being able to pick up the phone and call somebody is what I think the value, like even if you pay a little bit more than you do online, that right there is what it's worth. Yep. Like being able to pick you up. I've done it. I've called the office and they've had a policy written for me in a minute, not a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of however, and send it back to me so I could send it to a property management company that was needing things done. Yep. Stuff that would not happen if I had it online. Would I be saving some money? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. But I'm not one of those shops around. I'm happy with what I got and I keep it. So, I appreciate it, man. This has been good. So Alfa, let's talk Alfa real quick. If anybody is looking for insurance, looking to change insurances, are you licensed in different states or are you just Alabama?
I am just licensed in the state of Alabama. Okay. And I'm being in Birmingham, there's really no reason for me to be. If I was in Tuscaloosa, I might get licensed in Mississippi. If I was in Gadsden, I might get, Georgia. So it's one of those things. So, but hey, you're more than welcome to call me if you've got questions. I don't know how you
can say it if
you want to. I might give my number now.
If you want to give it out, you can.
Yeah, it's 205-919-7903. 205-919-7903. Hey, I do not mind helping. I don't mind answering questions.
And you have a network of people that you can connect them with, right?
Correct.
I mean, because Alfa's regional.
Yes. If you got somebody in Huntsville and you're in Huntsville, as much as I'd love to have your business, you really need somebody local. Yeah. And I can get you somebody there down in Mobile or, or in Georgia, Atlanta or Meridian or whatever. Yeah. We can get you taken care of. The important thing is to have somebody that again you've got relationship with. Yeah. Alfa, and I'll end with this because this is the other factor that made it important to me. Now this is not going to be something that's going to be important to everybody, but I want to honor, God, because He's the one that's, made my path straight. But what really sealed the deal for me to come to Alfa is when I was still with Surf Pro, Alfa had a big get together for all the agents up in Decatur, and like all the vendors do, they go out there and they say, "Hey, look at me," and "Hey, I'm giving away this," and but they opened their meeting in prayer. They prayed over their meal. And at the end of the day, they prayed for their customers. And that was something that was of value to me.
Yeah.
That it wasn't about just making money. We all are out there making money. But they saw it was important to them that they prayed for protection over their customers. It wasn't just me, but you need to have a place that your values match their values. Or maybe I should say it backwards. Their values match your values.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what's important. You know, if that's not important, then maybe Alpha's not for you. But to me, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, almost 8 years later, we're the same company.
Yeah.
We stand behind what we say. You know, we've got a fair price. We're not the loss leader. We're not the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And we care about our customers.
Yeah. That's good. No, I appreciate you coming on today. It's an honor to get you on and talk about this stuff. Added a lot of value and knowledge. Alpha, I have no bad things to say. All positive things. They've worked great for me. And like I said, we've had claims, and they've no problem at all filed them and taken care of it. So, well, I think that'll wrap this one up if you don't have anything else to leave us with.
I'm good, guys. Just remember, Alpha Insurance made simple.
That's right. That's a good way to go out. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. If you enjoyed the show, if you learned something from it, would you leave us a 5-star rating and review there? It really helps us grow the podcast and just gets it out there to a bigger community so we can continue to grow the community one relationship at a time. But without any further ado, I think that's going to wrap this one up, and we look forward to catching up with everybody here on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growing Green podcast. It is an honor to have you listening, and we hope you receive valuable advice to help take your business to the next level. Don't forget to follow the podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.